Hi, I'm Jenny Robertson, the founder of the On Purpose Woman magazine and the founder of On Purpose Woman Global Community. And I'm here today for our Writers Spotlight, where I chat with the contributing writers for the On Purpose Woman magazine. Today, I'm with productivity expert KimBoo York to chat about the problem with work-life balance, which she wrote about in the March-April issue of the magazine. To read the current issue, I have the link in the text here, and you can also find out more about KimBoo and her website on that as well. So KimBoo, before we dive into this topic of work-life balance, tell our viewers a little bit about you.
All right. I am a former project manager in the IT industry. I went back to school, got my master's degree in library and information studies, which is actually these days closely related to information technology, and especially in the era of the web and Wikipedia and all sorts of those things. I worked in higher ed for a little while, but I really felt the calling to go out on my own and claim my own work. And so these days, I'm not only a professional author. I've had multiple romance books published in the past, kind of rebooting that career, but I'm also a productivity coach. And I work with women solopreneurs with developing platforms. And when I say platforms, people often think of Facebook, but a platform can be your website as well. So I do website development and website coaching and social media strategy coaching as well, because those are all so closely integrated to the technology that runs them that I think people get a little confused and just need a little hand holding sometimes to figure out what they're doing.
I admire anyone who does technology. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, we all know what we're good at, and I learned a long time ago to just stay in that lane and not delve into that other piece of it. But I do want to talk to you off the record here about social media stuff a little bit. Let's set an appointment to do that. But you know, when you say productivity expert, I know I kind of glaze over a little bit because I remember, being in the corporate world, and they would bring in these productivity experts, or what else did they call them? Time management people. Or and that's when, oh gosh, what was that Japanese system that everybody was, you might be too young to remember that.
Are you talking about the Kanban boards, or was it?
No, it was before that even.
Oh,
everybody was using that, and it never
Agile.
really, and I don't remember what it was, but it was really big. You can see how the effect it had on me. But you know, those they would go away, and usually nothing would happen. But when I heard, you spoke for the On Purpose Woman Global Community, and when I heard you talk about productivity, you do it in a really, I don't want to say you dumb it down for the novice, but you kind of do. But more than that, you broaden it. You like encompass like our entire lives, not just our work life or not just our personal life. So tell everybody a little bit about how you work. This article that you wrote was I guess that's where I want to go. I'm kind of getting all over myself right now. The article is about the problem with work-life balance. And, I've mentioned before we came on that for years I've been saying work-life balance is just a myth, so we need to stop talking about it because we're never going to be perfectly balanced. But yet you approach it in a different way, and I really like it, and I've been using some of it. So just wow our viewers with this thing that you do.
No pressure, Jenny. Thanks.
No.
Well, in a way, you said you were rambling a little bit. It is related. One of the things I was really, I know exactly the kind of groups that you're talking, the professionals that come in and give you productivity advice and time management advice, because I sat through those same meetings. Productivity hacking is really big in the technology industry. If you've ever touched on those, like we call them tech bros, like they're all about time blocking and this and that. One of the things I realized working in that environment is that it is not holistic. It was very much about being productive at your job. As I went through the jobs that I had in IT, and even as I got into my master's program, and then when I worked in higher ed, what I realized is that a lot of women, especially solopreneurs, but also women, career women in corporations, their world is bigger than that. And we could get into reasons. We could hack that down, right?
But their day doesn't end at 5 o'clock.
It does not. It does not. And oftentimes, even the day is interrupted. You have calls from the school. Your kid got sick. Your mother-in-law is coming into town, and you've got to go shopping for the dinner for the Thanksgiving dinner, right? Which takes a week. Like it takes a week to do Thanksgiving dinner. It's like, whereas, traditionally it's like, oh, you have Wednesday off and then Thanksgiving dinner on Thursday. And of course, I'm in America, so this is a US tradition. But with women, it's a lot more than that. And I did not see much in the productivity sphere that was addressing that. There's a lot of great information and tools. I cover that in my newsletter, which goes out once a week, and anybody's free to sign up for, about things like time blocking and, the hero hour or eat the frog. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. Those are just concepts that are really well known in the productivity sphere. I felt we needed something more than that. And I felt that we needed something that was addressing that false work-life balance that we're constantly told. What is it? Enjolé, be a woman and bring home the bacon and fry it up in a pan, that whole thing. Oh,
Yep.
those of us who are old enough to remember that ad. But it takes a lot more than just time blocking. It takes a lot more than setting a goal. It takes a lot more than saying, well, I've spent 50% of my day on my business, and now I need to spend 50% of my day on my children or my relationships or my health. Where is your wellness in all of this? Where is that coming in? And so when I sat down and I looked at it, I went back to some of the sacred texts that I usually, go back to. And one of them is a Shambhala, Path of the Sacred Warrior by Trungpa Trungpa. And as a teacher, he taught the value of weighing practicality against vision. And Jenny, as soon as I read that, I was like, bingo, that's it. Because you can have a vision and it can be a strong vision, but it can be anything. It can be, I want to be a good mother. I want to be a great businesswoman. I want to develop a new system of doing something. I want to have a career in this field and become the best nurse I can be, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can have a vision. And the real question is, what are the practical steps of fulfilling that vision? And that is something that will never be perfectly balanced. There will be days, there'll be hours, there will be minutes where one vision needs more attention than another. But if you have your sights on the visions that are important to you, then you'll be able to start balancing it out. In that sense, balance is important, and realizing that sometimes you're just riding that wave as you get to these visions that are important to you. That's kind of like your lodestar that you're aiming for.
Yeah, that whole idea of for me, what that did when I looked at it was it gave me permission kind of to go, oh, not everything needs to be on my to-do list. I think it's a good way to look at what matters right now. What can I move off of that? And maybe I'll never do it. But that whole practicality and vision, it just merges those two things and makes it very holistic, which you said was missing from the other pieces. Remind me what you call those. Were they guideposts?
I call them guideposts. I have a
Yeah.
personal project management system called Personal Projects Management. It's a whole system. You don't have to use the whole system. There are bits and pieces that you can use to it that applies project management principles to our lives. And one of the reasons I came up with that was because of this idea of balancing practicality and vision. The important step is, what are your visions? And identifying those. It usually should be 3 to 5 things at the most, and then breaking those down into actionable pieces. And it's interesting, Jenny, when you said that, because one of the things that we have is what I call the perpetual calendar. It's the thing that you have to do, like you pay your rent on the first of the month. It doesn't matter what month it is, right? Like if you pay rent or pay mortgage, it's the first of the month. That's a perpetual ongoing thing on a perpetual calendar. And my friend Gina Hogan Edwards, as you know, when she first started using perpetual calendars, she realized how full they were of things that didn't feed into her vision. A lot of busy work, that it was a lot of commitments that she had made that, she'd made with the best of intentions, but not really realizing where her time was going. And so it's this type of idea. When I talk about project management, it's not the project management people think of when they think of like, automobile manufacturing, right? It's like, that's not what I'm talking about at all. It's about understanding what you're doing outside of a calendar, outside of, work-life balance. It's understanding what you're really committing to and being able to again, I love the whole word holistically in this sense because it's really underused and undervalued in the productivity sphere, but that's what we're looking for. We're looking for holistic productivity,
Mhm.
not just a single thing.
And I really love the idea of, it helps us get clear on where are we spending our time. Like Gina said, she was saying yes to things that maybe she really didn't want to say yes to, but until we see it kind of all in one place,
Mhm.
it's like our energy just seeps out, in pieces, right? And our time just seeps out in pieces. And
Well,
until we see it,
I,
yeah.
I want to grab that idea because I think what a lot of people do is they sit down with their calendar and they look for the empty spaces and then they fill those empty spaces up. And right, we all do it. I still do it. Like it's just a natural. It's like, oh yeah, I've got 2 hours on Thursday. I can do something then. But if you're looking at it holistically, if you're looking at a calendar with your what I call the guideposts, your visions, and how much time you have, you can really say, well, yeah, I've got 2 hours on Thursday, but I've got a big deadline I need to meet on Friday, and I've also got my kids, rehearsal practice that Thursday night. Do I really have that 2 hours? Do I really? Or do I need to use that time to rest and rejuvenate, or maybe make dinner because I know we're not going to be able to make dinner because of the rehearsal? So there's just lots of ways to balance that, but people start with their calendar and start with their time and then move to their priorities. And that is just absolutely the wrong way to do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. And what a novel idea that we could actually put things like rest on our calendar, right?
So
Or
important.
rejuvenation time, or just downtime, or self-care, any of that stuff, which for most women that I know, and me included, is that's what sometimes gets done if we have time.
Yeah.
It doesn't always get on the
It's like,
calendar or
oh
even
yeah,
on the
got a
to-do
little,
list.
I got 15 minutes, let's
Yeah.
meditate. Yeah. No, it needs to be on there. And again, it's about how can you be productive towards your visions if practically you're running on fumes? Because
Mhm.
you can't. You've got to have the practical aspect of rest, recuperation, planning. People don't think about planning too often, but planning takes a lot of brain power, a lot of energy, a lot of investment just to figure out what you're going to be doing. So having space for that in your life and having that, that practicality with that vision and adjusting for those things as you go along makes a huge difference.
Well, how challenging was it when you started this process for yourself? I mean, how challenging is it typically for somebody to make those changes? And is it a process that takes a while? Is it baby steps, or how does it work?
One of the things, so when I did work in higher ed, I actually worked with the Students with Disabilities Services office. And one thing I learned really quickly working there, I was very, very blessed to have so many students who taught me so much about the struggles they were having in their lives, was that every brain is different. So I've met people who just look at this, I would say in one sense, like you saw practicality to vision and you just latched onto that and you're incorporating it. For
Mhm.
other people, it might be more of a struggle. I think a lot of it depends on, I don't want to say how committed you are, but how willing you are to let go of some things. I find,
Mhm.
and people hate to hear this, but I find that people who are most successful at making this transition are the ones who are willing to let go, either of a role that they were playing in their community or with their family, or a goal that they had 10 years ago, maybe doesn't really fit who they are now, but that was their goal and they don't want to let go of it. You have to be willing to let go of some things to really make those decisions on what those visions are. So then you can weigh the practical steps to get to those goals. So
Oh,
that
that
seems
makes such
to be the common,
sense.
yeah, that seems to be the
Yeah.
common denominator.
And I think what spoke to me was I'm a big believer in having a vision, and in working the vision, and of,
Mhm.
revamping the vision, expanding the vision. But that's kind of a woo word, it's kind of a, oh, vision. It shouldn't be, but it kind of is sometimes.
Mhm.
But practicality kind of brings it together, which says, okay, I can do both. I can have this beautiful vision, and I can also bring the practical aspects in, because it's the practical parts that help us get it done, actually do the steps that it takes for us to have the vision. So that's what spoke to me about it. I think that's why I was so eager to actually, when you said it, and I read it before you said it,
Yeah.
I think, and I went, oh, like that's the missing piece there.
Excellent, excellent. Mwahaha. My plan is coming together. No, that's what I hope to do for women in general, especially small business owners or people, even if you're not a business owner, if you just have a lot on your plate, like you volunteer at your local church or synagogue and you have a family, you're a stay-at-home mom and you're trying to run a large household, whatever the case may be, I think having that moment where you can realize that you can be productive towards your vision is so important, because a lot of productivity advice that we run out into, you can find worksheets, you can find planners, you can do all of that, but it's not really addressing the core issue of that vision and what are you doing to take steps to that vision. And again, like I said, the vision can be being a great parent. It
Mhm.
can be being a wealthy entrepreneur. Doesn't matter what it is, but you've got to take the practical steps to get to that vision.
Yeah. I'm a calendar person. I still have a a big calendar that I write on because I'm very
Mhm.
tactile. I do a
Right.
to-do list. I write my to-do list. But
Mm.
I tell you, when I was in the corporate world, I spent big bucks on fancy planners, the main brand, the big one.
Oh
And
yeah.
it took me more work to get it ready to use than I ever used it. It was like, oh, it's a whole, it's a whole 6 months of just getting ready to use it because it's too complicated. I
I,
think
I,
more
I,
complicated than it needed to be for my life, at least.
that speaks to me so much. That speaks to me so much. It really is one of the things that got me frustrated. I really love the bullet journal. Bullet journal came out in 2013, right? And before that, I loved planners too. But I realized let me think how to put this. A lot of times in the business world, right? Um, that's all you have to do is figure out, you can spend 2 hours on Monday figuring out what the rest of your week is going to look like, because the
Mhm.
laundry is going to get done, right? By somebody,
Yeah, you're there at work, and that's your thing.
right?
You've got that
That's
time.
all
Yeah,
you're caring
yeah.
about. Whereas with something like bullet journal, I realized I was spending so much time trying to make these spreads or make these calendars and fill up these calendars and update them every week that I was losing sight of what I really needed to do. And like you said,
Mhm.
some planners are beautiful and great and really helpful, but they can become their own chore and just
Exactly. That's how I was
take
feeling
all your
about it.
energy.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Well, KimBoo, how could someone work with you and how could they get more information?
I'm one of those people who are like, oh, you can reach me in a lot of ways. I am on Facebook, the Facebook page for my business, which is called The Task Mistress. The website is www.task-mistress.com. I always like to stress that the dash is very important. You don't want to go to other sites. Um, uh,
Okay, yeah.
I work one-on-one coaching. I do productivity coaching and I also do social media strategy coaching. And as a website developer, I can also offer people a website development on Shopify and Squarespace and WordPress. But I can also do a free consultation if you're not sure your website is up to standards, or if you haven't chosen a platform yet, you don't understand the technology. That's certainly where I can come in. I'm really good at explaining the technology to people. And if you're feeling overwhelmed by all the choices that you have out there with technology and website, or even productivity planning, if you're trying to use a project management app like Asana or Monday, I can help you get over that hurdle. So glad to do it for people, because to me, it's a lot of fun.
Wonderful. Well, as I mentioned at the beginning, KimBoo's website is in the text of this video, and the Facebook page is the same except without the dash.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. KimBoo, do you have any final wonderful words that you want to leave our viewers with?
If you're struggling with time management, if you're struggling with scheduling or trying to do all of the things, let me tell you and promise you, it's not you, it's them. It's
Mm,
the tools that you're using can determine your success. And if you're having trouble with the tools that you're using, it's probably the tools and not you. You can find a way to be productive and reach for your vision in a practical way, as we've been talking about on this conversation. But it's not you. You're not broken. You just need to find the right way to manage all the tasks that you have. And you can do it. I believe that. I believe that about everybody.
Thank you. I think those are really important words, and I think it's a perfect place for us to end our conversation. So, KimBoo,
Wonderful.
thank you so much. And I know you'll be writing some more for the magazine at some point. So thanks for sharing your wisdom with our readers and now your wisdom with our viewers. So I appreciate it.
Not a problem at all. Love seeing you and talking to you, Jenny.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you for watching.